To the Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, President Julius Malema, ama fighters onke, ngithi happy birthday month. Siyanimema nonke Khayelitsha Rugby Stadium, nani bayonibukela e-White House. So come all of you and celebrate with us. The economic freedom fighters reject the budgets of human settlements, and not because we are extortionists like the DA, but because it is an empty promise wrapped in inflation and in false hope. Commander-in-Chief, the government has increased the budget allocation for human settlements this financial year, but an increase in nominal terms means nothing when it's swallowed by inflation. According to Stats SA, South Africa's consumer price inflation stood at 5.2% in May 2025. So unless we're willing to deceive ourselves, this increase is not real, it is cosmetic. It does not build more homes, it does not address the ever-growing backlog, and it certainly does not restore the dignity of our people. This budget fails the most basic test. It does not speak to the housing backlog, which now exceeds 2.3 million units. As admitted by the department itself, every year, government announces thousands of planned units, yet the streets of Diepsloot, Khayelitsha, and Marikana tell a different story. Over 13 million South Africans still live in informal settlements, backyards, and overcrowded RDP houses. This is not a technical failure. It is a political and moral one. It is a betrayal of the promises made in 1994 that every citizen would have access to adequate housing and basic services. 30 years later, that promise remains unfulfilled. The people are not asking for mansions, they are demanding dignity. We must also confront the failed experiment that is the National Housing Finance Corporation, established in 1996. It was supposed to be a transformative force in affordable housing finance. For years, we were told that the NHFC would be converted into a state-owned bank to challenge the tyranny of commercial banks and extend credit to the poor and working class. Instead of becoming a weapon of economic transformation, the NHFC remains toothless, offering loans to the middle class while the poor continue to be locked out of property ownership. Where is the legislation? Where is the vision? Once again, the state has promised revolution and delivered bureaucracy. Year after year, we watch in horror as municipalities, especially in the metros, return billions in unspent housing grants to the fiscus, while our people sleep in open veldt. In 2023-2024, over 1.4 billion in urban settlement development grants were returned. This happens because government has outsourced its key responsibilities. Consequently, consultants, many with links to the ruling elite, are paid millions while local government departments collapse. There is no accountability, there is no urgency, there is no leadership. This reliance on consultant is not accidental, it is deliberate. It allows those in government to hide behind PowerPoint presentations instead of facing the communities they've abandoned. It allows tenderpreneurs to profiteer from misery while the people wait in vain for houses that never come. In light of all of this, our people are left with no option but to occupy land. Land occupations is not a criminal act. They are acts of desperation and resistance. The EFF does not apologize for standing with the landless. As long as our people are denied land, we will continue to support land occupation programs, not for chaos, but for justice. The criminalization of land occupation is a crime in itself, a war against the poor disguised as law enforcement. What choice do people have when the eviction is the only response they receive from the state? The EFF's position is clear and consistent with our 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars. Specifically, the state must expropriate land to make space for housing development and to guarantee free quality housing for all, prioritizing women, youth, and the poor. There must be a state-led construction company, eliminating the reliance of private developers and consultants. We call for the People's Housing Brigade, led by the state, to build homes using local labor and materials. This would stimulate local economies, provide skills to the youth, and restore community agency in development. We demand the nationalization of urban land and an end to the market-driven logic of housing delivery. Let us also not forget the environmental injustice embedded in human settlements planning. Too often, the poor are pushed to urban periphery, far from jobs, schools, and transport. The spatial apartheid remains intact. We need integrated, mixed-income developments in well-located areas, not ghettos of poverty on the edge of society. We need housing policies rooted in spatial justice, not convenience for capital. We reject a system that budgets for poverty instead of transformation. We reject a system where the rich live in suburbs and the poor in sinkholes of despair. We demand a revolution in human settlements rooted in justice, dignity, and liberation of land. The EFF does not support this budget. We support the people, and we will continue to fight for housing as a human right and not a market commodity. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable.